Well, I just want to welcome you today, and it's been a bit of a struggle. We've been trying to get the online services out, and we haven't given up on it, so we're still going to be putting them out. But today it's just going to be a few songs that we've sung before. We haven't been able to record any songs this week, but the devotional is new. I will be sharing a devotional, and so that is new. But I trust you will enjoy our service today. God bless.
Lord, I lift your name on high. Lord, I long to sing your praises. I'm so glad you're in my life. I'm so glad you came to save us. You came from heaven to earth to show the way, from the earth to the cross, my debt to pay, from the cross to the grave, from the grave to the sky. Lord, I lift your name on high. Lord, I lift your name on high. Lord, I love to sing your praises. I'm so glad you're in my life. I'm so glad you came to save us. You came from heaven to earth to show the way, from the earth to the cross, my debt to pay, from the cross to the grave, from the grave to the sky. Lord, I lift your name on high. He paid a debt he did not owe. I owed a debt I could not pay. I needed someone to wash my sins away. And now I sing a brand new song, Amazing Grace. For Jesus paid a debt that I could never pay. He paid a debt he did not owe. I owed a debt I could not pay. I needed someone to wash my sins away. And now I sing a brand new song, Amazing Grace. For Jesus paid a debt that I could never pay. And I thank God for the lighthouse. I owe my life to Him. For Jesus is the lighthouse, and from the wrongs of sin, He has shone a light around me, that I might clearly see. If it wasn't for the lighthouse, tell me where would this ship be? And I thank God for the lighthouse. I owe my life to Him. For Jesus is the lighthouse, and from the wrongs of sin, He has shone a light around me, that I could clearly see. If it wasn't for the lighthouse, tell me where would this ship be?
Well, Luke chapter 9, verse 55 says, "For the Son of Man did not come to destroy men's lives, but to save them." And they went to another village. That's part of the verse. But if you look at the context of this verse, we see that Jesus and the disciples were on the way to Jerusalem, and they had asked some Samaritans, for some help along the way. And the Samaritans refused because he was going to Jerusalem, and there was a lot of animosity in those days between Jews and Samaritans. And so, even then, Jerusalem was kind of a contentious city. So James and John, two of the apostles, thought it would be a good idea to call down fire from heaven and consume these Samaritans. Just like, Elijah did a similar thing in the Old Testament on those who had come to arrest him and things like that. And so, the Jews didn't like the Samaritans didn't like the Jews, so why not just wipe them out? And that's when Jesus' response was that he didn't come to earth to destroy people's lives, but to save them. So we know Jesus is not the author of death and destruction. We look at our world today, we see the things happening now in Russia, Ukraine. We see it now in Israel and Palestine. We see a lot of death and destruction, and sometimes happening to the most vulnerable, right, which is terrible. We see women and children being murdered, taken hostage, and other things, entire families being killed in their own homes. I mean, it's just a terrible thing. And, it's good for us to be reminded that Jesus is not in that, right? Jesus doesn't do those things. That's people who do that, right? People look at these situations and they blame God and say, why doesn't God intervene? But we need to remember God is not the author of evil. People carry out evil acts. And, the stated purpose of God sending his Son into the world is to save people. It is not to destroy or condemn. Jesus is the author of deliverance. He comes to save people's lives, right? Now, this is not necessarily a temporal deliverance, though. We need to keep that in mind. Sometimes God's people die. Well, not only when they're old and gray-headed. Sometimes they get caught in the midst of evil. God's deliverance is primarily spiritual and eternal, but it can be physical and temporal. I mean, God can protect us, and he does protect us. But the fact is, we're all going to die eventually, right? It's just a matter of when and how. But it is going to happen, and God does protect us. But we also need to be reminded of the work of the devil. We don't hear a whole lot about that now, but I believe God sometimes gets blamed for things that are actually the devil's work, right? You don't have to be a spiritual genius as such to figure out what's of God and what's of the devil. 1 John 3:10 says this, right? It says, "This is how we know who the children of God are and who the children of the devil are." He says, "Anyone who does not do what is right is not God's child, nor is anyone who doesn't love their brother or sister." And, we're all brothers and sisters in humanity, so to speak. Those who hate, those who would just go and kill and destroy, they're not of God. They're doing the devil's work. And he goes on to remind us in verse 11 there of 1 John 3 that the main message of Christianity in terms of relationships is that we should love one another. And he says, whatever we do, don't be like Cain, right? The world's first cold-blooded killer was a man named Cain who murdered his own brother. And, what was Cain's problem? John tells us what his problem was. He was of the wicked one. He was of the devil. That's why he did what he did. In John 8, we find Jesus interacting with some people and who wanted to kill him. And, so Jesus said, don't worry, you're really good people at heart, and I understand, you know, you want to kill me, but it's not your fault. You're just products of your environment. No, he didn't say that, did he? You know what Jesus said? You belong to your father, the devil, and you want to carry out your father's desires. He was a murderer from the beginning, not holding to the truth, for there is no truth in him. And when he lies, he speaks his native language, for he is a liar and the father of lies. That's John, 8:44. How does the devil commit murder? Jesus said he was a murderer from the beginning. How does he do that in the world today? He does it through people, right? He gets people, he has to find willing vessels in order to accomplish his evil purposes, and unfortunately he does find them, right? And more so it seems in certain parts of the world, but he does find them. But the final thing I wanted to mention, that we need to be reminded of the need for dedication. No matter what happens in our world, no matter what happens in our own personal lives, we need to remain dedicated to Jesus. We need to be dedicated to his person and also his teachings, right? If you look at the life and teachings of Jesus, one thing he showed was an ethic of non-retaliation. You know, remember his words, right, in the Sermon on the Mount about turning the other cheek. Someone steals your coat, give him your shirt, right? Love your enemies, pray for those who persecute you. That's the way of Jesus. Those words are still in the Bible. They haven't changed, and they're not going to change, right? So we need to really make a choice. Are we going to follow Jesus, or are we going to follow the way of this world? The world seems to be sinking almost into a deeper darkness, and it's more important than ever before that we remain committed to Jesus. And you know, it's helpful to have a biblical worldview of how things are in the world, to know that the evil that's happening is not God. It's not God. It's the devil, usually working through people. And that's the way it is. It was that way ever since Genesis 3, when Satan worked through Cain to kill his brother Abel. And that's how Satan has been working ever since. So we can't blame God, but we can turn to him in faith and trust him and pray against the evil in society and pray for his protection. You know, one of the great prayers, the Lord's Prayer, he said, lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. And he will do it, and we just need to trust him. Pray for the situations that's happening in Israel. Pray about it, right? Just pray for those people on both sides, the Israel and the Palestinians, because you don't want families and children being killed. We understand from a military political point of view, certain groups have to be dealt with, but we want, you know, nobody should like to see innocent people being killed or anything, so we need to pray about it. And so God bless you today. Always remember, God loves you.